Hello, Mr. Randy here. This is going to be our second week of 2D drawing work, and this week we're going to take a look at creating a variety of section views along with auxiliary views, how to break a view, and finally how to crop a view. So lots of just add-ons from last week, dealing mostly with sections. All right. So I have a part up on the screen here, and we can see there's a hole pattern through it. It's just a real simple pulley. We're going to use lots of simple parts here to demonstrate this week. I want to create a 2D drawing, so I'm going to make a drawing from this part. And we'll just select a B-size sheet, keep it real simple, and I'll bring in a front view. And I think just for clarity's sake, I'm gonna pop this up to 1:1. Make it nice and big on the screen. There we go. Probably wouldn't give us enough room for dimensions, but it'll work for our demonstration. So we're going to start by cutting just a simple section straight through the part. Probably not what we want to do, but we'll move on to that. I want to just do a full section here of this part. All right. So what I'm going to do is you can just go up and click on section view and then draw the line. I just prefer to sketch them first so I know it's right before I do it. So I'm just going to go to sketch and do a line. And typically the best thing to do is like mouse over the origin and then pull up, and you can see that we get a witness line. And you want to make sure you have that witness line because you have to be, in this case, on the center of the part with your cutting plane or your section won't be right. So you have to take a lot of care that in getting that line exactly where you need it to be. And we'll take a look at that in a little more detail in just a bit. And then the second thing you have to pay attention to is the distance that you go out here. This determines where the arrowhead is going to be for the section view. So if you like put it right there, the arrowhead's going to be right off the surface of the part, which would be incorrect. So I'm going to come up, I'm just going to eyeball maybe 5 millimeters or so. You can base that on text height. Remember, text is around 3 millimeters, so I'm going to go up a little higher than my text and set that point right about there. And then I'll come down. I should be right on origin here and select and put that line in. So I'm going to highlight that line, and then we're going to go to View Layout tab, and I'm just going to click on Section View. Now, SolidWorks likes to flip arrows the wrong way. I got lucky this time. I'm going to place this section view right here. And oftentimes your arrows will be pointing towards a section view, which is incorrect in the United States. We use third angle projection, and so the arrowheads should be pointing away from the section view. This is the cutting plane line, and it's as if we discarded this half of the part and we're looking at this cut face, which would rotate to the right in this case. If you need to flip your arrows, the button is right here, so I can flip my arrows. In our case, the section view doesn't look any different because it's a symmetrical part. But make sure when you're in SolidWorks here in the States that your arrows are pointing away from the section view when you proceed. And then I'll click in the section view. We never show hidden lines in section views, so we'll turn those hidden lines off. And there you have a pretty simple and straightforward section view. I will show you a couple things. I'll click on the section or cutting plane line. You can change the letter for your section to whatever you'd like. Notice that it automatically updates the view text. You can also, if you put this cutting plane line in and you decided that maybe you're sticking too far out or you're too close, you can edit that sketch. If you right click, you can edit the sketch. And so we'll click on that line and you can adjust the endpoints. Maybe I want to pull them down or closer to the part a little bit. Drag them off a little ways and then get them where you want them. And then come over here and close the sketch. And you're going to get an error here, and just hit OK. It goes ahead and does the fix. So you can adjust that line after the fact and make sure that, again, your offset here should be, close to the height of the letter. This one's maybe a little tight. Now, this is not a very good section cut for this part because we kind of like to see the whole of both the top and bottom view, top and bottom half of this section. So we'd really like the cutting plane line to pass through this hole and do what we would call an aligned section. So let's take a look at that. I'm going to click on the cutting plane line. I'm going to delete it. That's going to delete the section view. And I want to, create a line section here. So I'm going to go back to Sketch, Line. One other thing to note, make sure when you start your line, you're inside this viewport. If that view box, that gold box, is not lit up when you start drawing lines, it won't be associated with that view. It'll be associated with the sheet, and it won't allow you to use it as a cutting plane. So make sure you're inside the box, and I'm going to go up off of the origin again, about there. And I'll come down to the origin, and then I have to make sure that I pass right through that hole. And you can see that it's not snapping at all to that hole. I'm going to show you two options here for getting this done. If you're lucky, if the SolidWorks gods are smiling upon you, you can acquire that center point. And I'll do that again. Acquire that center point, touch it, and then you can see that witness line extending out. Follow that line and place your point. Certain types of features may not give you that witness line, and sometimes you've got to kind of force the issue. So I'm going to delete that line and show you how you can make that happen. What I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to sketch a point on the center of that circle. And again, if you had a strange feature, a diamond shape or something that did not have a center point, you have to do something like this. I'm going to draw a line now, and I'm going to intentionally draw it in the wrong place. I'm going to create a relationship now between the line and the point and make them coincident. That puts the line exactly where I want it. I'm now going to click on that point and delete it. Now, as long as I don't touch that line, as long as I don't move this endpoint, I'll be fine. But you've got to make sure your line is perfect and your distance here is perfect, because you can't adjust this once you've deleted that point. You can't move this endpoint up or down at all. It won't stay aligned. So that's a way you can get around it if you have to. Put a point in or a piece of reference geometry, create a relation, then delete the reference geometry, and then don't touch that line. All right, I'm going to pick these two lines. It is important the order that you pick them in. So let's do it this way. I'm going to pick this line first and this line second. And then we're going to go to View Layout, and we're going to do an aligned section view. As soon as I click, it's going to strike that section view. And I want you to notice where my section view went. It went, if you will, view rotation was off of this line, not this line, and that was the second line that I picked. So you got to be careful in your order of picking those, what direction you go. You can see now I have a line cutting plane, and I have a nice looking view here again. I might change that to no hidden lines. I would, of course, center mark and dimension and do all those things. I'm going to delete that cutting plane line. And let's put it in one more time and pick the wrong way, just so you can see the result. So let's sketch line, and I'm going to come up from the origin, and then we'll come down through the circle. Then I'm going to pick this line first, and then this line, and then we'll do an aligned section. And I think you see the issue now. So it's the second line that you pick orients the section view perpendicular to that line, the view rotation perpendicular to that line. So be careful the order that you pick your lines in. Okay? All right, let's say goodbye to those two lines. Okay, so there's a full section, an aligned section. I think we're done with this part. We can say goodbye. And we'll say goodbye to that. And let's pop up this part. This is actually the only part I'm going to show you this week that's one of your assignments. So we're going to deal with this part. I'm going to save it first, and then we'll do a drawing. This is a metric part, I hope. B-size sheet. And let's place a front view here. All right, so I'm going to need a top view of this part for sure. But I'm also going to need an auxiliary view. I need a view going this way because I want to show the depth of this cut here. And I'm going to do that via an auxiliary view down here. Let's take a look at how we create an auxiliary view. I'm going to go to View Layout. We have an auxiliary view button right here. And all you do, it's a little deceiving because it needs you to pick an edge, but I want you to notice that as I mouse over these edges, nothing happens. They don't highlight, they don't change color. The little icon that I have does not change at all. And so you just have to kind of have faith. So what I'm going to do is click on this edge right here with my mouse. Even though it's not lighting up, I'm just going to click right there, and it's going to produce an auxiliary view for me. I'm going to place that view, and let's hit Escape now. Now, at least in the States, typically we would not show a view arrow or even call out an auxiliary view in this fashion. There are situations where we would, especially if I wasn't going to line the auxiliary view up with a part. I would show the view arrow, and then I might put this view somewhere else. So we need to clean this up now. And so first of all, I just clicked in the viewport, by the way, and then come over here and you can turn off the arrows, first of all. So we'll shut those arrows off, and then secondly, delete that view label. Get that out of there. Don't leave it floating down here. Common mistake students on this problem will leave it sitting like in the middle of the title block somewhere. So look for that view label and get it out of there. All right, well, auxiliary view like this, we really don't want to see hidden lines, so we're going to turn those off. But I'm going to need them for a minute, so I'm going to turn it back on. Now, there's no need for us to show this portion of the part in this view. It's information that's of no use to us. It's taken up a lot of space here. We really need to just show this area because we're going to dimension the depth of this slot that's cut in. So two things are going to have to happen. Number one, we're going to do a broken section here to section this area. And secondly, I want to crop off part of this view. They're both very similar processes when we do that. Now, you've had the opportunity to do one broken section, but this one will be a little different. I'm going to go to the sketch tool, and I'm going to do a spline curve. We're going to do the broken section first. And the reason I turn my hidden lines on is I want to zigzag right through this area here with my broken section. I could even do it up in here, but I'm going to zigzag down here and create that broken section. So I'm going to start out here with my spline curve. And I'm going to kind of jog through here. I want to show that whole slot. And now I'm going to loop around. Again, go slowly when you're doing these kinds of spline curves. SolidWorks tends to break them if you move the mouse too fast. Now with that spline curve lit up, I'm going to go to View Layout, and I'm going to create a broke out section. Now I'm going to turn on Preview here for a moment, and you'll remember when we did ours last week that we adjusted this value until we kind of hit where we wanted to be. Well, we need to be real precise here. The cutting plane line really has to be dead center on this slot. That's the depth of cut we need. So instead of using a distance, I'm going to click in this box. And when you have a circular or radial feature in the view, you can select it, and the center point will be used as the depth of the broken section. So I'm going to pick either of these arcs, and that will shift that cutting plane line, if you will, the cut depth, exactly to the center of that arc or that slot. And we'll click OK. So there's my broken section now, and I've exposed that slot for my auxiliary view. Now I want to crop off this view. I want to cut through here somewhere, just past the corner, and get rid of all this information down here. Again, it's not normal to the view, and so it's of no value. We might as well get it out of there. So I'm going to do a second spline curve. I'm going to go back up to the spline tool, and this time I'm going to zig through just south of the corner here. And then again, we'll loop around and we'll close that spline. And now I'm going to go to View Layout and I'm going to click on Crop View. And it's just going to cut away anything outside of that spline curve. Now I can click in that view and we'll go to No Hidden Lines. And that gives us that broken, cropped view here with the broke out section. One other thing to show you when you do this assignment, when you go to center mark this view, you can't get the center marks by trying to click two sides of a cylindrical form because it's not there. So when you center mark that one under annotation, when you do your center line, I'm sorry, not center mark, hit select view and click in that view and it will give you those two center marks. All right, let's do one more broken section here. We want to expose this cut feature here. So let's do a broke out section here so we can dimension that depth, because this one, the hole we can do with a depth call out, but this we can't. So we'll do one more broken section here. I'm going to sketch a spline curve. Again, I'm going to zig right. Whoops, see, and I did it that time. I moved too fast. Let's get rid of that. So we'll do a spline curve. I'm going to zig right through here. Notice I'm not clicking on any geometry when I do that. I'm being very careful actually not to. Remember, that creates a relationship and it locks it to that piece of geometry, sometimes exactly to the midpoint. You could never edit that spline curve. All right, I have my spline curve, a closed curve. I'm going to go to View Layout and Broke Out Section. And I'm just going to pick either of these arcs to set the depth. And we can click on Preview to make sure, and that looks good, and we'll hit OK. I will show you how you edit this. First of all, watch your hatch patterns. Make sure that they're not perfectly parallel to some portion of the view. You can click in the hatched area and you can change your hatch settings right here. So if this angle was not appropriate, just come over here and turn off material crosshatch and then maybe change the angle to 90 degrees. That'll flip it the other way. So you can change settings here. You can change the hatch pattern. There's lots of patterns here. You can change the scale of the pattern. And then you can change the angle here, okay? So I'm going to set this back to 0. I like that look better, but I just wanted you to see that. Secondly, I can right click in here, and again, I can edit the broke out section. So here's broken section. Again, I'll right click in the broken section, broke out section, and I can edit the sketch. Now I can click on that spline curve and I could adjust these points. If I thought it was a little too symmetrical, I could pull that point in. Again, when I close the sketch, it's going to be a weird error message. Says no segment selected, previous section profile used. Just click OK. It will adjust it accordingly. Okay. So there's a broken section, and again, one more broken section. If you edit definition, you could change the depth of the cut for the broke out section here. All right. So here we have an auxiliary view, broken section, a cropped view, and a second broken section. All right, let's close that part. One more thing I'll show you real quick while we're in this part. Sometimes when you want a little 3D view of your part, none of the standard views work real well. Remember that 3D kind of pictorial view that we put in our drawing is just to show the reader of the drawing what the part looks like. And if I looked here at, say, the isometric view or the dimetric or trimetric, any of these standard views that we get, none of them really shows us this slot and lets us know that it's not through. You know, we can see on the back side that's not through, but I'd like a view that really showed off the fact that that slot does not go through the part, okay? So I think I'll just show you how to do that real quick. Again, I'm going to just go back to trimetric here and see that we can't notice that in this picture. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to a front view. And yeah, I'll go to a front view here. And I'm going to try using the arrow keys. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the right arrow key one time. And that turns the part 15 degrees. This is just on the keyboard using the arrow keys. And then I'm going to try hitting the down arrow key a couple times. And this puts the part in an orientation where I see this cut, and I see the hole here, and I also see the slot, and I see this not through. I think if I go down one more, it's going to be a little too far. It does give us the benefit of showing that, and I don't know if I can get there, but I can. Let's go right there. You know, so you might use this view to kind of show off the fact that none of these features are all the way through. You can see that one and that one. You can even see a little bit of the bottom of the hole there. So let's say it was important to me to let the viewer know that was going on. I could set a view up like this. Now, I'd like to get that view into my 2D drawing, which I've already deleted, but we'll bring it back up. So this is what I have to do. I have to save this view orientation. So what I'm going to do is hit the space bar. Okay? So tap the space bar, and this brings up the orientation pop-up here. And I want to save this view. So I'm going to say I want a new view, and I'll just call it, I usually just call them pic or pictorial. And we'll hit OK. Now I'm going to save this part. And then when I create my 2D drawing, I'm going to have to do it over again here. Whoops. So let's make a drawing again. And we'll just pop in a front view here. And you could rotate your other views. We'll just rotate a top view. Now I want to put in that view that I created. So I'm going to go to View Layout. So we're in the View Layout tab. And I want to bring in a model view. And I'm going to double click on SW11, or you can hit the blue arrow right here just to tell it that we want to bring in a view of this model, SW11. So let's go next here. And then let's scroll down. And I should have here the option of that pictorial view that I created. Okay? It's even checked. SolidWorks figures if you went to the trouble of making that view, you want to use it. So it actually comes in check marked. And I'll bring this up, and I can bring in that pictorial view. And I might even, in this drawing, if your printer can handle it, I might even make that shaded so that, let's turn the lines off, so that they can see that there's a back in those slots. So that's how you create custom views and bring them in if you're really trying to show off a feature. Create them in the model, save the view, and then you can bring it into the drawing file. All right, now we'll close this for good. And we'll say goodbye to that part. All right, so let's take a look here. I have another part up here. We're going to do another type of section here. You can see I've got two holes here, and one of these holes has a spot face on the back. And so when I do my 2D drawing, I need to cut a section to show all those features. We'll go ahead and do it on a B-size sheet. And let's just bring a front view in. We'll drop it right there. And we'll hit OK. I'm not going to bother with a side view. So what I'd like to do is cut a single section through this part. We call it an offset section to show off both holes instead of doing two sections. And we'll do it as a bottom view. So I'm going to go to the line tool. And SolidWorks is not going to cooperate with me here. There we go. And I'm going to place a point over here. I'm going to come through the hole somewhere between this point and this point, somewhere in between, but on a horizontal line. And then I'm going to come down, and we'll acquire and move back to the right. You can see I have witness lines in both directions. You've got to make sure you pass dead center through these holes. If you're not getting witness lines, again, drop a couple points on those holes, centers, relate them, and then delete the points. All right, so I have my cutting plane line. Remember, this is an offset section. You've done this in 101. Now I'm going to highlight these three lines. I'm holding the control key down. Then we're going to go to View Layout. And we're just going to cut a section view. And I'm going to bring this down. And finally, SolidWorks is goofed up on me, and it's pointing the arrows the wrong way. So I'm going to place that view. I have to flip these arrowheads. They have to point away from the section view. So flip direction over here. And let's zoom up a bit. Pretty shallow cut there. But there's my offset section. I'm going to hit OK. And first of all, we can see we don't want to see hidden lines here, so we'll turn hidden lines off in that view. And secondly, SolidWorks has shown this exactly the way it would look if you took a saw and cut this. We would see an edge here, right? There's a step in that section. However, we don't usually show that edge, at least not in the States. So I'm going to click on that edge. And I'm going to hide it. This button, which we normally use to switch from object line or visible line to construction line, in a 2D drawing is used to hide or show edges. So I'm going to click this button here, and it's going to take that line out for me. And there I have an offset section in its clean state. Now I would center mark everything and apply my dimensions. Okay. So again, offset section, draw the jagged line. Make sure that you always stay horizontal and vertical. We never angle lines in an offset section, so always horizontal or vertical, and then hide that line out in that view. All right, so it's an offset section. I'm going to close this, and we don't need this any longer. Finally, I think we're going to break a view here. So I have this drawing started, and it's a piece of channel, just a real simple shape here. And if I were to look at the part file here real quick, you can see that it's pretty long. Okay, so that could present some problems for us. So let's go back to the drawing. Now I'm going to project a right side view here. So we'll just go to a projected view, and we'll click on this view, and we'll move to the right. And I think you can see we have way too much view there. Well, we don't want to put this on a big, huge sheet just to show the length of this part. So what we'd like to do is knock a section out of it. We'd like to break that view. So I'm going to select that view, and we're going to click on break. And over here in the right-hand or left-hand feature manager, determine which orientation you need here. And you can set your gap size, and you can choose the style of the cut. For a part like this, we probably would do a zigzag. For a circular part, you might do a curve cut, but we'll leave it in the default here. And so I'm going to click, and as you see, as soon as I come onto the surface of the part here, it's showing me a break line. I'll place one about there, and I'll place one over here. And as soon as I do so, it immediately breaks the part, breaks the view. Oops. I want to move that view over. Excuse me. And you can edit this. So if I need to narrow up this view, I can take this and drag it over, and that cuts away more information. If I pull it the other direction, it lengthens the view, so I'm going to lengthen this one out a bit. So you can drag these around again just to show you. Here's a straight cut, curve cut, which again we'd probably use, oh, that doesn't look too bad, zigzag and small zigzag. Which if we zoom on it, up on it, you can see it looks like that. And that's a broken view. The cool thing about broken views, of course, is when I import my dimensions, into the drawing, is that it gives me the actual length of the part, not this distance, of course, and it puts the jog in, and you can change the settings for what that will look like under options. But it automatically puts that in, tells us that this is not the actual measured distance that you see in the drawing, that it's been foreshortened. Okay, so that's how we break a view. Okay. All right, I think that's everything we need for this week. Let's close this drawing, and we'll close that model, and our empty screen here tells us that we're done. So there you go, section views, aligned views, cropped views, broken views. Good luck, and as always, enjoy.